Hey everybody, Nick Wright here with Wright Group. Want to make just a quick video to talk about agency and representation in the transaction, and specifically a section in our residential listing agreement that we have with sellers. Right now, we only negotiate with the seller as far as a professional fee to market, list, and sell your home and represent you. Under that section in our contracts, there's another section that we can check to get additional compensation if we are working with an unrepresented buyer. And so that's a buyer that doesn't have a broker agency relationship for representation, and they don't want to start a relationship with me as a listing agent. They just want to make an offer. And so here's my stance. That buyer basically is a huge liability. It's a risk for that seller to basically get into a legally binding contract with them when I can't advise them and they have nobody advising them on their side. And my stance is this: I will not be working with unrepresented buyers. I think if you're wanting to get additional compensation for working with both parties, then it needs to be in full dual agency, where there's a broker buyer representation agreement in place, as well as the listing agreement. Both parties are fully aware that it's a dual agency and it's fully disclosed. That way, each party gets full representation. If the seller's okay with that, if the buyer's okay with that, of course. But to have someone in the transaction that's not represented, I can't advise them on contracts. I can't even give them contracts and say, here's how it should be filled out. I basically have to say, you need to get an attorney to help you fill out a contract. You need to go through this process by yourself. And in my experience, these are very complicated contracts as it is. And to have a buyer do this on their own without proper counsel from a licensed professional that does this every single day, it's pretty much a recipe for disaster. And I personally would never want my sellers to get into a legally binding contract with a buyer that's unrepresented, that maybe doesn't have a really great contract, that has a lot of open-endedness, and it can go south pretty bad. So that's my take on it. So if you are out there and you're talking to listing agents and they're saying, hey, I'm going to check this box, I'm going to get an additional compensation if I work with an unrepresented buyer, if they're trying to pitch it as this is going to save you money because I'll do both sides for less than 2 agents, really, really think hard about what that means. Are you saving money on the professional fees, or are you potentially putting yourself at a huge legal and financial risk of liability if something does go wrong in that situation? So just my 2 cents. Obviously, for you as buyers out there, I'll do a separate video, but to be unrepresented in the transaction is really, really high risk for you. And there's a lot of benefits to have representation. So feel free to reach out to us here on the team. We'd love to chat with you on that. Have a great weekend. Talk to you soon.